Going on in corporate America, it's important that you don't let your personal feelings kind of stand in the way of what could be your next big chance at a job. This morning, our career expert, Randy Wooden, here to talk about how to deal with the questions maybe about politics or religion. Good morning to you. Those are tough things to talk about for some people.
They sure are.
And we just saw protesters outside and a lot of people, and how do you deal with that? If you're in an interview and let's start with, say, politics or the Occupy Wall Street, if someone were to ask that, how do you handle that question?
Well, first of all, it has no relevance to your ability to do the job.
It absolutely does not.
It really doesn't, and we all have a life outside of work. But the question then becomes any number of questions, but one of those is not so much what do you say in response, but how is that perceived by the employer? If I essentially say it's none of your business, or I prefer not to talk about it,
that's a negative.
It comes across as a stiff arm, and you don't want to do that.
And a potential problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So you don't want to do that. So instead, remember humor also, okay? And try to keep that in the back of your mind as we go through this. But what if instead of essentially saying no comment, what if at first you acknowledge that it's certainly in the news, it's something that people share varying opinions on. And I was curious, Brad, how you felt about that?
So you're turning it back to them.
Yes.
And maybe now if they say, well, I think, blah, blah, do you necessarily agree with them, or should you?
You got to drag me kicking and screaming to take the bait.
So it's not good. So politics, number one, not a good thing to be discussing.
Right.
No matter, and just as you said, turn it back to them. Religion's another area
sure.
too.
But let's follow up. What if they do come back and they say, well here's what I think about it, and then they say, so Brad, what
about
you? What do you think about it? Here's where here's where humor comes in. Here's where you come in and you say, well, it does kind of put me on the spot, and I do feel a little awkward in talking about things like that as it relates to a job, especially during an interview, and laugh a little bit.
Okay.
Show a little humor.
Okay.
Because humor can knock down walls. It really can. So
Okay.
try that. It doesn't always work, and understand too that these questions, when you interview with what I will call a larger, more structured company, those questions don't come up.
Right.
Well, if you're dealing with an entrepreneur or a small company and there's a newspaper lying on the table, they pick it up, they look at it, they say, what do you think about this? Mm-hmm. It's born of ignorance, not so much to try to trap you, usually.
Okay, but social media, a lot of times you can put your position out there, and if they research that, they could find out anyway.
Well,
right?
true, and you, just as you can research a company through the web, there's a lot more exposure that you have. One tip you might want to try, first of all, is tone it down. I mean, a lot of people don't go to social media to be preached to and talk to about hot topics, but try and opt in, just like I might opt into a Fox 8 newsletter. Tell your friends, hey, if you want to talk politics, I can include you in a specific group for that, and try to shield other people from it. And that might help, but it won't 100% keep you safe.
Okay, great advice, great advice. And again, tough things to talk about no matter
Sure
what.
are. Yep.
Randy, thanks.